Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is January 11th, 2025, and Jan Laporta, for the first time, has addressed what went down with the whole Dani Olmo and Pau Victor registration. Also, Diario AS, a media outlet in Spain, have interviewed a representative from the Superior Court for Sport, and this representative has not only explained everything that's going on with the precautionary measure with the case, but also he's embarrassed all these pro Real Madrid people, let's put it that way, in all these clubs who issued statements against Barcelona. So you're definitely going to want to watch this. Anyways, we have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and begin this video with the big news that Jan Laporta for the first time has addressed what happened with the Dani Olmo and Pau Victor's registration. Now, ahead of tomorrow's final in the Spanish Super Cup between Barcelona and Real Madrid, there was an event held at the Saudi Arabia embassy where Jan Laporta was present, and of course, he was asked what happened with Pau Victor and Dani Olmo's registration, and this is what the Barcelona president had to say about this topic for the first time since the whole fiasco began. This Super Cup has been surrounded by controversy, which is the registration of some players, which fortunately has already been resolved, and they will be available for our coach. We could have avoided this situation if the regulations were applied correctly. But anyway, the fact is that it has now been resolved, and they will be able to play in the final. So Jan Laporta saying, there's been a lot of controversy with Dani Olmo and Pau Victor. Thankfully, it's been resolved, but all of this could have been avoided had La Liga applied the correct rules. Now, of course, that's what the dispute is about. Barcelona believe that their rights were violated by La Liga because La Liga did not apply the financial fair play rules correctly. La Liga think that they did. This is what the whole case and the CSD is going to hinge about, who's right, who's wrong. And then Laporta said, all of this could have been avoided had La Liga applied the rules correctly. Now, if the court rules that Barcelona were correct, then yes, Jan Laporta is correct that all of this could have been avoided had La Liga followed its own rules. But if the court doesn't, then obviously, no, that's not the case. But either way, whoever's right, Barcelona or La Liga, I think all of this could have been avoided had you done your job, Mr. Laporta, because A, you could have just not signed Dani Olmo since you already knew you could register him before you signed him. B, okay, fine, you decide to sign him. How about coming up with a plan to register him before you sign him? Okay, not enough time, fine, you signed him. How about you come up with a plan to register him after you signed him? After all, you had 4 months until December 31st. No, you were counting on a Nike deal? Okay, fine. Nike deal was closed in October, so by then you knew that it wasn't going to be enough for the 1-to-1 rule. How about you register him then? Or come up with a plan to register him then? You still had 2 months until the deadline. No, that doesn't sound good enough. I guess we'll wait until 3 days before the deadline to start this whole process. Because look, whether La Liga did do a good job or a bad job in applying the rules, at the end of the day, had you done this ahead of time, it still wouldn't have been a problem, right? Because what the problem was is Barcelona sold the VIP seats or the rights to the VIP seats, gave all the paperwork to La Liga before the deadline, and then La Liga said, this is not enough. You need to show me proof of payment. And of course, the proof of payment came after the deadline. That was the problem. But had Barcelona sold those seats, I don't know, November, A, we would have gotten 200 million for those seats, not 100. And B, if Barcelona would have handed the paperwork in and La Liga was like, hey, I still need to see payment in your bank account, that's fine. I still have 2 months or a month and a half. I got plenty of time to wait for the money to kick in, show it to La Liga, go under the 1-1 rule, and register the player. So no, all of this couldn't have just only been avoided had La Liga applied the rules correctly. Could have also been avoided had you done your job. But anyways, let's move on to the next segment because Diario AS, a Spanish media outlet, has interviewed a representative of the CSD, or the Superior Court for Sport, which is the court that will oversee the lawsuit between Barcelona and La Liga, and it's also the court that handed the emergency precautionary measure, or the temporary precautionary measure, or the temporary injunction, whatever you want to call it, that allowed the registration of Dani Olmo and Pau Victor. And after you're done hearing this interview or done or after I'm done reading this interview to you, not only are you going to understand better, but you're also going to see how stupid are all these clubs with their statements against Barcelona and all these idiotic social media personalities and full-time YouTubers who have been like talking about, oh, this is unfair, Barcelona breaking the rules, the courts are favoring Barcelona. Anyway, so let's proceed with this interview, which I thought was pretty interesting. Now, the first question to the representative was, what has been the basis for the CSD's decision? Again, the CSD is the court, the Superior Court for Sport, to issue the precautionary measure to Barcelona so that Dani Olmo and Pau Victor can once again be registered as Barca players. And this was the answer. For the estimation of an urgent precautionary measure, different requirements must be met, as has happened in this case. The players Dani Olmo and Pau Victor and Barcelona have alleged the possible occurrence of a cause for full nullity due to lack of competence of the body that addressed their request for the issuance of the license. The CSD cannot ignore this issue. In addition, it has been taken into account that a judge granted a precautionary measure to Gavi, considering the damage that could be caused to the player's sporting career and image, as the judge did in the aforementioned case. The CSD has adopted this resolution to protect the careers of athletes. The current sports law mandates protecting the rights of athletes. The law places athletes at the center. So, to unwrap everything what he said, is like, look, this is what happened. This is why these two players were allowed to be registered. Barcelona believed that their rights were violated. Therefore, they brought a case against La Liga in court in front of the CSD. While this case is being litigated, which is estimated that's going to take 3 months until April, the court gave a temporary injunction allowing Dani Olmo and Pau Victor to play during those 3 months. Why? In order to protect the athletes. This is the same explanation I gave you in my previous videos, which if you haven't seen it, make sure you do. Why? Because in 3 months, if the court decides that yes, Barcelona was correct and Dani Olmo and Pau Victor should have been registered this whole time and they weren't, how are you going to repay those 3 months that they weren't playing? You can't. You cannot go back in time and fix that injustice. So therefore, they allow them to play in the meantime while the court litigates the case. That's very, very easy to understand. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand it, but I get it. These days, it's very hard to do research and verify information before you open your mouth and decide to say stuff on Twitter or YouTube or whatever. Now, that interview continues with the following question. That question was, how does the government explain that this preferential treatment has been given to Barca after it failed to comply with the requirements of economic fair play on December 31st. The disciplinary committee have rejected Barca's allegation and that both the Royal Spanish Football Federation and La Liga have deregistered both players. Now, the answer was the High Council of Sports, that's the CSD, the court, does not intervene spontaneously. It is the players and Barcelona who present an appeal to the CSD. Due to the powers attributed to by the law, the CSD has the obligation to rule on this appeal. In this case, a discrepancy is evident between two parties. On the one hand, the players Dani Olmo and Pau Victor and Barcelona. On the other hand, La Liga and the Royal Spanish Football Federation. They maintain opposing positions regarding the registration of the two players, and the CSD is the body that must resolve the discrepancy. It should be noted that the CSD has not yet taken any decision on the substance of the case. It has taken an administrative decision based on law and of a provisional nature, namely the granting of a precautionary measure. So let's unwrap this, because people are like, oh, this is unfair that the CSD is doing this. And he's like, hold on, the CSD did not just intervene on its own. The CSD wasn't just chilling and then they opened a newspaper and saw that Dani Olmo and Pau Victor were not registered. We're like, hold on, let me say something about this. No. CSD was minding its own business, and then there comes Barcelona saying, hey, CSD, my rights were violated. And La Liga was like, no, they're not. So now there's a case. That's how every court in the world operates. You have two parties who cannot agree. They go in front of a judge. Each party says their side of the story, and then the judge, once he's heard both sides, decides on who is right and who is wrong. That's how every court in the world operates. If you can't understand that, then I don't know how else to explain it. You don't have to be a lawyer or a legal expert to understand this basic concept. So this guy is saying the same thing. Look, the reason why there's a case is not because there's some preferential treatment for Barcelona. It's just simple. You have the Barcelona and La Liga. They don't agree on something. So they brought the case, and we, under the law, are obligated to hear both sides and come up with a ruling. And in the meantime, we've issued the injunction, again, to protect Dani Olmo and Pau Victor for the reasons I've stated before and for the reasons I've stated in my previous videos. Which, again, if you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out. So next time someone tells you, hey, this is preferential treatment, no, it's not. It's simply a court deciding a case like any other court in the world, whether it's family court, civil court, criminal court, whatever. And then this guy reminds us, by the way, there is no decision here. So what the hell is Athletic Club de Bilbao and Atletico Madrid and Las Palmas issuing these statements talking about unfairness? There is no decision here. It's like me right now telling you, hey, the results of the Spanish Super Cup final is not fair. But what do you mean? The match hasn't even been played. How can I say it's fair or not fair? Same exact thing. These clubs, they're either ran by idiots who don't understand how a court system works, or either they're pretending to be idiots just to cause outrage. And honestly, I don't know which one is worse. Now, anyways, let's continue with this interview because there's more explanation. Now, the question is, why has the CSD granted the precautionary measure in just 24 hours when Barca's letter is 52 pages long? Now, the answer is the CSD has acted diligently to avoid damage that is difficult to repair. The appeal filed by the players and Barcelona was received by the CSD on the morning of January 7th. At that time, the legal services took into account that the semifinal match against Athletic Clubs, scheduled for January 8th at 8 p.m., is the one that establishes the beginning of the period in which the players would face a possible damage that is difficult to repair in the event that decision on the merits in their favor. This is what determines the urgent nature of the precautionary measure, something that is not exceptional but has already occurred on the occasion. In September 2021, for example, the CSD upheld the precautionary measure requested by La Liga for the postponement of the Sevilla FC Barcelona and Villarreal Alaves matches, thus respecting the health of the players and the time margin that the clubs needed to plan the organization of the matches. In that case, in which the resolution of the precautionary measure was favorable to La Liga, there was also no objections from other parties. So the question was, how is it that in 24 hours you were able to hand the precautionary measure when Barcelona's case was 52 pages long? Oh my God, how is it possible to read 52 pages in 24 hours? Has the interviewer ever read a book? Because 52 pages is not that much, my friend. In general, it's just not that much. Anybody can read 52 pages in 24 hours. And when you talk about the legal field, I literally read hundreds, sometimes thousands of pages in one day. So there's nothing special about 52 pages. But anyways, the CSD explains, look, we had to rule on it because the following day there was a match. And again, the injunction is to protect the players, right? Because if the players go 3 months without playing, and then the court rules in favor of Barcelona, that's 3 months they didn't play. That's damage being done to the players that you cannot make up. So because they did have a match the following day, then that's when the damage begins, right? It's the following day because that's the first match since this whole case has been brought up. So they had to act immediately in order to avoid as much damage as possible. Because again, missing one match, that's fine. 3 months, that's a lot. And again, 52 pages, my friends, is not that much. Anyways, we continue. The same statement speaks of the sporting damage and the damage to rivals if it is finally decided that the non-registration was in accordance with the law. Answer: it has been taken into account that Dani Olmo and Pau Victor have been part of the Barcelona squad since the beginning of the season, having been protagonists of different commitments against different rivals. The players were already playing with their club. If finally in March the appeal is resolved in favor of the players and Barcelona, and Dani Olmo and Pau Victor had not been able to play in La Liga, the Copa del Rey, and the Champions League during that time, be eligible for the national team, or even if they left the club in the transfer market, how would this damage be repaired? Again, the same point that I've made time and time again in my previous video, because the question was, you talk about, protecting the players, but how about the other clubs? It's like the damage is not the same. If we prevent these players from playing for 3 months, and in April the court rules in favor of Barcelona, how are you gonna repay these players for not playing in La Liga, the Copa del Rey, the Champions League for 3 months? Also, if the players leave because they're not registered, how are you gonna repay that damage, the money that Barcelona lost in the transfer fees, the fact that the players are now gone and Barcelona is never gonna be able to depend on them? You can't. If Barcelona faces Real Betis, for example, and Dani Olmo scores a goal, the damage to Real Betis for Dani Olmo playing is just one match. The damage to these players, if they don't play for 3 months, is dozens of matches. You cannot repair that damage. That's why this injunction or precautionary measure was issued. Anyways, let's continue, because the question is, in its statement against the injunction, Atletico Madrid speaks of a very dangerous precedent. Does the government understand this to be the case? And the response is, the criticism is legitimate, although the CSD has adopted this resolution in the exercise of its powers, responsibly under a strictly legal criteria and in the general interest and that of the sportsmen. So again, Atletico Madrid talking about a dangerous precedent. What dangerous precedent? The fact that Barcelona went to court? That's literally what the court is there for. It's called the Higher Council for Sports. The court was established to rule on sport disagreements, whether it's between two clubs, between a club and La Liga, between a club and the Royal Special, whatever. There's a disagreement. That's what the court is there for. You go there, you present your case, the other party presents their case, the court decides who's right and who's wrong. How is that a precedent? That's literally how every court system works. Also, the injunction, same thing. It's based in law. This is not some crazy thing that the court is coming up with. This is something that has always existed. So again, I don't know if these clubs are ran by idiots who don't understand how the law works, or if they're simply pretending to be idiots just to cause drama. And again, I don't know which is worse. Now, let's continue. The question is, most La Liga clubs have spoken out against the resolution. Does the CSD understand their anger and that the principle of equality has been broken? The answer, the president of La Liga himself wrote a tweet in which stressed that the granting of licenses to players is the key to the issue and not economic control. In fact, La Liga acknowledged on January 3rd that Barcelona is within the 1-to-1 rule. Therefore, it is understandable that Barcelona is currently complying with the rules of the financial fair play. What is at the heart of this matter is a discrepancy regarding the deadlines for the registration of players. To resolve this issue, the CSD has requested objections from La Liga and the Royal Spanish Football Federation since their regulations come into play. With all these elements, the CSD will issue a resolution in accordance to the law. So the question was, well, all these clubs are complaining, saying that Barcelona are breaking the financial fair play rules, and the judge is like, hold on a minute. Even Javier Tebas has admitted himself that this is not about the breaking the financial fair play rules. And in fact, Barcelona are complying with the financial fair play rules because Barcelona are already under the 1-to-1 rule according to Javier Tebas himself. This is about an ambiguous rule on when can the players be registered, on when the deadline is to register these players. So Barcelona are not breaking any financial fair play rules. In fact, they are abiding by them. Anyways, I really hope that this interview helped you understand the case better, the precautionary measure, etc. And I hope also that it helped shut up many of these so-called legal experts on social media talking about, oh, this is unfair, Barcelona getting preferential treatment. Seriously, you think Barcelona get preferential treatment from anybody, governmental body in Spain? If you think that, you obviously not only don't understand football, but you don't understand politics or history of Spain. And I implore you, we have these really cool things. They're called cell phones. They can access any piece of information around the world. Just Google, read, educate yourself. I implore you, not for my sake, but for your own sake. Because every time you tweet or you make a video, you're only making yourself look very stupid. Stop doing that. Have some dignity. Don't look that stupid. Educate yourself. Anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. I did upload another video. I know this one was pretty long, but you know, this is a pretty complex topic. Well, it's not even that complicated, but Madrid people want to make it complicated because it's in their best interest to do so, because that's how they keep selling the bullshit that they're selling to all their followers. But anyways, I uploaded another video. Make sure to check it out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, Visca Barça.